In this episode, we talk about HubSpot's CMS Free as a quick overview, plus improvements to CMS Starter, plus the two A words, automation and attribution. You're listening to the universe's #1 HubSpot Focus podcast, where we discuss HubSpot tips, tricks and strategies for growing your sales, service marketing, and operations results. My name is Ian Jacob from Search and Be Found, and with me is Craig Bailey from Zen Systems. How are you, Craig?
I think I'm okay, Ian. I'm fighting the flu, and the reason I mention that is because we'll talk about it in a second, relating to what's going on for a lot of clients. But other than that, I'm feeling good, and we're returning to our usual format for HubShots. Right. We've spent the last couple of episodes diving deep into specific feature sets of HubSpot. Today is much more back to our usual format. Let us know if you prefer it, by the way.
And listeners, we'd love you to give us some feedback on the past episodes, because we're always looking to see if they are helping you. And so thank you to those who have contacted us and have said some kind words in how it's helped them. We really do appreciate it and appreciate hearing from you. So let's start with our growth thought of the week, Craig. The two A words, automation and attribution.
So let's chat about how this came about. In the media, of course, there's lots of news. I'm going to call it clickbait articles about how economic downturn and recession and all these words going around. I'm not going to talk about that because, well, it may or may not happen. It's not really for me to say. Although I will say doom and gloom sells. It certainly gets clicks onto articles. But I actually think there's a much more pressing problem that we're all focusing on, or should be focusing on, because we're all being affected short term, and that is everyone's getting sick, okay? And that impacts productivity. So don't worry about the longer term things, recession and economic downturn. Worry about them in the coming months. But you know what you need to be worried about now? Your team is getting sick. So in Australia at the moment, I think 2 out of 3 people have had COVID or the flu. Like the numbers are absolutely incredible. So with all our clients, it is normal now. It's just like, oh, yeah, no, they're away, people are sick. And at Zen, in our firm, earlier this week, more than half of the team was off for various reasons, some with COVID, some with the flu and things like that. So this is a big problem. And so why am I mentioning this? Because short term, this is a big problem. And it's not only that work isn't getting done, it's that things are getting missed. And that's the problem. Things are creeping through. They're not getting tracked. Leads aren't being followed up. Delays result in time. You know, time is money in a sense. So if you're not following up leads, or people aren't around, or perhaps they're not getting notified, or there's customer support queries or orders or things like this, they're getting missed. So what's the solution to this? Short term, never mind long term, when there might be cutbacks and things like that. It's about automation. So now's the time to be looking at all your processes and thinking about how can we automate things that we're currently doing manually. And we won't go into examples now, but even as we go through the show, you know, as we were preparing the show, Ian, you and I were chatting about just some of these crazy manual processes that go on in companies. Then we're trying to help clients improve those processes. So never mind, we want to cut back on marketing. You know, this is what companies typically do in downturns. Oh, we reduce our marketing spend and all that. It's like, you know how you could save a lot more money? Automating processes. And it's not only the saving from automating, it's actually avoiding the cost of missing things. So that's the first thing, automation. You've really got to be thinking about that at the moment. And then the second thing is attribution, because when you've got reduced capacity because your team's away, or maybe you're cutting back on budgets and things like that are coming, it's actually about attribution. What's working? Where do we need to spend money? Where do we need to spend time doing things? So that's the attribution side. So that's what I want listeners to take away at the moment, especially because you're reminded of it, because the people are sick and things like that. Automation and attribution. And those two A words lead to two E words, which are efficiency and effectiveness. So you're doing things as efficiently as possible, but you're doing the right things as efficiently as possible. So automation and attribution, they enable efficiency and effectiveness. That's the growth thought of the week, and that leads into a whole lot of HubSpot pieces that, of course, we've been talking about in recent weeks.
All right. onto our quick shots of the week, Craig. And here's some interesting things we've noticed. First one is we now have Google Analytics 4 integration in HubSpot on all versions. So if you haven't actually set up Google Analytics 4, now is a good time to do it and put that into HubSpot so you can start your tracking. We've got some new quote templates for Sales Professional, and that's a little upgrade which we've been waiting for a long time. Enables you to customize them. The next one is a conversation inbox. Custom views are more flexible, and you've got to be having Service Professional for this or any pro product. Is that right, Craig?
Yeah, any pro product.
To make that happen. The next thing is line items now support fractional quantities up to 7 decimal places.
Can I make a comment on this one? Because people might be thinking, wow, that's exciting. I tell you what, it is exciting. We've got a corporate client where they want to send quotes out and they might say, oh, that's 3.75 hours.
Yes.
For that particular piece of work. No, couldn't do it before. Had to have whole numbers, 3 hours or 4 hours. Adding decimals is actually a major win for them. So these tiny little things often have big impact.
And talking about tiny little things that make big impacts is cloning campaigns now includes cloning of assets, including forms. And we will have an episode on this in the future, but well worth knowing that that's available.
This has been requested for a while. It's only a basic functionality initially, and in future they're going to let you choose which assets get cloned as part of a campaign. But yeah, this is really handy. And also it's something Marketo's had for ages, and I know people that have compared HubSpot to Marketo have said, oh, does HubSpot have this? It's coming. Well, it's halfway here, and it'll be fully here soon.
The next one is there is now availability of a QR code scanner on the mobile app. So it enables people to quickly create and save contacts in HubSpot. And so we tested this out where I created a QR code with my V card and Craig was able to scan it and insert the details into HubSpot very quickly. So it's a great new addition. So I encourage people, if you're in marketing and your sales team haven't already done this, think about creating QR codes with their V cards that can be utilized by others so they can get their contacts quickly onto their phone. And finally,
before the pandemic, where like QR codes are dead, like they never took off. In Australia, I know in some other Asian countries they've been huge for ages, but thanks to the pandemic, QR codes got a second life here in Australia. I think in the US as well, and they're just everywhere.
All right, and then finally, we've got some simple e-commerce recommendations on the product module that can be used in emails. So well worth looking at this if you have your HubSpot connected to a shop like Shopify. All right, onto our HubSpot marketing feature of the week, Craig. The last referring site property.
Yeah, just a few quick by the way, listeners, we're getting to CMS Hub free in a few shots time, but just before we get to those, just some little features we've seen. This will be a pretty quick episode, but yeah, this last referring site, little tip on this, really good for having as a personalization token that you might include in an internal marketing email notification. Because it shows the site, in fact, actually can be the page that led to them filling out a form. So the last referring site, it's almost like the last referring page in some cases before they submitted the form. So we've got a screenshot that shows an example there. And the difference between this and last page seen can be confusing. In fact, it confused me until we were actually implementing this for a client earlier in the week. You and I were doing this on a coaching call, Ian, when we came across this. So last referring site can be the last referring page that actually led to a conversion, whereas last page seen was, well, the page that they last visited. So that could have been many pages after they actually filled out a form. So very handy to use. We've got a link to the knowledge base article on that as well, but something to include in your internal email notifications.
One caveat on that is if the contact that visits your site has an ad blocker enabled, which is increasingly common these days, as we found when we were testing, then these fields may be slightly unreliable. So just be aware of that when using them. All right, onto our sales feature of the week. And it's the little things, Craig. Now, when we're logging calls, we can put it, there is a call direction that can be logged either inbound or outbound. So well worth. And it also enables you to report on the call direction in the custom report. So if you're using calling within HubSpot, this is a great addition to figure out your call volume inbound or outbound. All right, onto the service feature of the week, Craig.
Yeah, customizing. So your customer portal, you know how you fill that out? Customer portal is where people come to look at their tickets. And that's got a menu. Well, before it was pretty limited. Now you can just customize it like you can any other menu on a web page or things like that. I think it's kind of odd that we actually need to talk about this on the show as a feature, but it is new. And, well, for listeners that weren't aware, you can do this now. Yep, it's great. You do it from settings, custom portal, go and edit the navigation, the menu that's used on your portal. So really this is about consistency. You can make it consistent. You got a pricing page on your main menu. Yep, include a pricing page on your customer portal. Keep it consistent.
That's right. All right, on to our HubSpot CMS feature of the week, Craig. HubSpot CMS free.
All right, so let's have spend a few minutes on this. We're just going to do an overview of it, a quick intro, because we're still playing with it ourselves. We'll have a full extended episode on this in the coming weeks, or maybe in a month or two, once we've really put it to the test, and also CMS Starter as well, which we're starting to do a few projects for clients now that it's actually improved a little bit. But CMS free, they announced it. When was this? Maybe a month ago, I think.
A few weeks ago,
actually, a couple of weeks ago.
Yep.
Yeah, and here's what you get. You get 25 pages that you can build based on a marketplace theme. And we did some testing. Actually, we were doing this together, weren't we? And testing in a portal and playing with some of the marketplace themes that are available. And the experience was very good. So let's just be clear. When we say CMS free, we are talking about no charge. This is free. So there is no reason not to at least just create an account and spin up a site on this. 25 pages based on marketplace themes. Now you can have unlimited landing pages based on their simplistic inbuilt landing page templates, which look, frankly, they're pretty crap. So I wouldn't use them unless you had to. The marketplace themes are the ones to be using. So 25 pages for free. You can also have a blog with up to 100 posts. You might say, what? Limited to 100 posts? Man, it's free. You can't complain, right? This is a great way to get going with CMS. And look, there's a bunch of things. We'll go through some of the others, but what's your thoughts, Ian? You know, straight away, I guess I'm pretty positive. What's your initial thoughts on this?
Well, from us going through and actually creating a site, choosing a theme and getting started, Craig, I was actually really impressed because using the professional tools and now seeing what's available free, I was really impressed because it's very hard to compare it to anything else there on the marketplace. And listeners, so just be aware, it is free. And on the bottom left-hand side, you'll say, I think, does it say created by HubSpot or created with HubSpot? Built with HubSpot.
There is some branding, I forget
there
what it
is
was.
On the bottom left-hand side. But it's been done really well. And to be honest, if I was creating a website and I just had that down on the left-hand side, I'd be quite happy to have that branding on the left-hand side with the amount of features and the ability of things that I get to do with CMS free.
Yeah, and let's just explain what you do get in terms of, say, the settings. So you might think, oh, has it got a cutback domain management? No, you can add a domain. So your own domain. It's not some HubSpot hosted or branded one. Your own domain. You can include redirects. You can have an XML sitemap. It's got the GA and GTM integration pieces. Like all of those bits are there on the free version. This is very feature rich for what you get with free. You get the navigation menu builder. That all works. You know, it's not some stripped back thing. It actually works. You got design manager access. Now, there are some caveats with that. We won't go into it in this show, but if you get a theme from the marketplace, one of the free marketplace themes, you can actually create a child theme based on that. Yep, that all works with CMS free. Then you can edit those files in the child theme. You can do all of that in CMS free. So plus you've got all, SSL and the CDN and all that other stuff that's available in all of the CMS hubs. It's really good. 25 pages and for a bit of branding. I think this is...
It's amazing.
Compelling.
All right. So then it gets better, Craig, with HubSpot CMS Starter.
Yeah, and this is the bigger thing for me. If listeners have listened for a while, you know when we did our big episode on CMS Starter, I loved the functionality, but I was extremely critical that it was limited to 15 pages. I thought it was crazy, frankly. But I'm glad to see that they've now increased that to 50 pages, which is more than enough for most of the situations where we'd want to be using this, whereas 15 was limited. There were some other silly things like 15 also was taken up when you had language variations and other things like that. They removed that as well. So CMS Starter now, you can have 50 pages and each of those can have language variations. I actually don't think that's going to be a common use case for someone that's just on Starter to have language variations, but sure, it's there. The landing pages, they still use... the inbuilt themes, but we're really just talking about 50 pages, and I think the blog posts you can have up to 1,000 maybe or 10,000 on CMS Starter. So no real limit there that's going to affect you, and this is really the compelling piece. And I think there's going to be a very easy upsell if you've started on CMS free, you've built it out, you've got a few pages, and you want to remove the branding. You get a few other features, bang, CMS Starter. CMS Starter, I think it's crazy cheap as well, like $50 a month or $40 a month.
Correct.
Depending on, this is Australian or US. It's very affordable. This is probably, I'm more excited about the fact that we will be able to build CMS Starter sites for a number of our clients now. So what's your thoughts on CMS Starter? Is that a big thing for you or is that just me, Ian? That increase to 50 pages.
You know what? I was excited at the start, Craig, and I think I had that little roadblock as well because we built a couple of sites, and to see the increase, that is massive. So it makes it a much better proposition when starting off on CMS.
All right, they're the main difference in the show notes. If you don't get our show notes, by the way, sign up at hubshots.com/subscribe and we'll send you show notes which include all the details, links and everything like that. But in the show notes, I've actually taken the full comparison page for CMS Hub. When you get the show notes, you probably have to expand the image, but what I've done there is taken that huge long list of all the features and I've just highlighted a few which I think are considerations between the versions. So there's not a lot between free and starter that's going to cause friction, except for maybe the branding and the page limits. But then when you want to go into things like A/B testing and smart content, that's when you're going to go actually up to professional and enterprise and above. So overall summary, I'm very happy about CMS free and I'm even happier about CMS Starter being increased in its page size. So get into that. It's a no-brainer to go into Starter and now into free, and now Starter is actually quite compelling for a lot of situations.
And listeners, please be aware that the landing pages still cannot use the theme that you purchased from the marketplace. So that's just my one wish, Craig, if that can happen.
Well, but the thing is, the landing pages, you know what? I almost think when we talk about these two products, don't talk about landing pages in the sense of a landing page template.
Yeah.
Think of, you're building a landing page, but it's a web page using a
landing page
marketplace theme. So
correct.
Build your landing pages using the themes and it'll take up one of your 50 pages in Starter.
Agreed.
Functions as a landing page, but it's actually a web page. Very confusing. We probably need to explain that better in our next episode.
All right. We've got a sunset of the week, and that is non-user emails no longer working in form notifications. And this is actually a good change. Previously, you could have sent notifications to email addresses that weren't HubSpot users, which could have been problematic or abused inappropriately. So that's a good change, and this change limits the notifications to only HubSpot users, which means that if someone leaves the company or they've been deactivated, they no longer receive notifications. So that's a good change. All right. Thought of the week, Craig.
You know, I had this really bad pricing page experience. And I'm not going to go through it in the show notes, but I actually did a post on my personal blog around it. I just wanted to get some pricing on Zoom Info. You know this service, Zoom Info, pretty popular B2B. Data enrichment service. Can you think it's easy to get pricing out of them? It's such a frustrating experience. So in the post, which I've linked in the show notes, I walk all through every step of the debacle. What's the summary from this? Because I don't want to turn it just into a whinge. When people are searching for information and they're trying to get a fit, just give them the information. And I think HubSpot, even Salesforce these days, you go to Salesforce, you can get pricing on their website. Sure, they've got complexity that you might need to customize. We're talking with a sales rep, but you at least get initial pricing. HubSpot does it beautifully. It's becoming the norm of good experience companies. And these companies that won't put pricing and then hide it. Now, the thing about the Zoom Info experience is on their pricing page, they say, view pricing. But you can't view pricing. And then they say, enter your email and we'll send you pricing. They don't. They don't send you pricing. They force you to get into a meeting with someone, which you don't want to do. So frustrating. So there's the summary. Give people the details they're after, or at least explain the process.
All right. Actually, let's go with the training of the week. So listeners, there's training on building a website in CMS Hub Starter, which HubSpot has. So we encourage you to actually take that training. It's a good base level training to get started. And now on to our quote of the week, Craig. And this is from James Clear from Atomic Habits, an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. And this quote says, "True long-term thinking is goalless thinking. It's not about the single accomplishment. It's about the cycle of endless refinement and continuous improvement. Ultimately, it's your commitment to the process that will determine your progress." Fits really well with our starter shot, where we talk about the 2 A's, right, Craig?
That's right.
Well, listeners, we hope you've enjoyed this episode. If you've got any feedback, please reply to the email that you get for the show notes from Craig, and he will reply back to you. If you want to get a hold of myself, please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or even on Instagram. I'd be happy to talk to you and connect with you. I always love hearing from people, and it really does make our day, doesn't it, Craig, when people reach out to us and tell us that they listen and the things that they've learned. It really does make our day. So thank you to everyone that has been listening for a long time. And we hope that if you've got any feedback, that you will, by all means, send it back to us. All right, Craig, until next week.
Catch you later, Ian.